This video is part 2 in a series of videos being distributed by Rice Insurance Services Company, LLC, RISC, as an initiative to educate insureds about the real estate errors and omissions policy offered by our company. RISC is a group policy provider of mandated real estate errors and omissions coverage, which we'll call E&O, for real estate licensees and, in some circumstances, appraisers and property managers. If you've not already seen part 1 of our series of videos, you may find it helpful to view that video prior to watching this, as it contains an overview of RISC and the real estate E&O coverage offered by our company. Through a partnership with Continental Casualty Company, a CNA insurance company, RISC provides E&O coverage in 12 of the 13 states that require E&O insurance and have group programs for certain licensed real estate professionals. To find out if we provide insurance in your state and for more information about available coverage, we invite you to visit our website at www.risceo.com. Now, the real question every insured wants to know is, will they be covered in the event of a claim? Although RISC can't, and really no insurance provider should, advise on whether a speculative future claim with unknown circumstances would be covered, this video will address some of the things insureds need to know about coverage offered by RISC group policies. In order to know if you're protected, you must be informed as to what your policy covers. The best advice that can be given to any insured is to read the policy language. It is impossible to know exactly what a policy covers and what your duties are under a policy if you do not read it. Despite this advice, we understand not everyone can or will read their group policy. Therefore, RISC is creating a series of short videos in an attempt to educate insureds about the coverage offered by their real estate E&O group policy. Unfortunately, some claims are denied because the insured did not take the time to understand their coverage and they were not adequately insured for their business needs. In some instances, claims can be uncovered for reasons which could have been prevented. These videos will highlight some of the things insureds need to know about coverage under a RISC real estate E&O group policy and hopefully prevent denied claims to any extent possible. It is our hope this will provide better understanding for insureds and also help the public that a real estate E&O group policy ultimately benefits as well. A real estate E&O policy will not protect a real estate licensee from every claim that could be made. Insurance policies do not provide coverage for intentional acts, fraud, or other items specifically excluded by the policy. The RISC group policy provides coverage and defense for written claims alleging a negligent act, error, or omission in the performance of professional real estate services as defined by the policy. A real estate E&O professional liability policy is not designed to provide coverage for bodily injury, property damage, and other matters which different types of insurance policies are written to cover. If you want coverage for general liability, which goes beyond professional liability, you should investigate a general liability or business owner's policy. So, what types of claims should be turned into your real estate E&O carrier for coverage consideration? A claim is typically defined by a RISC group policy something like this: a written demand for money or services received by the insured, or service of a lawsuit, arbitration, or mediation proceeding seeking damages and alleging a negligent act, error, or omission in the performance or failure to perform professional services. Therefore, an email from a buyer or seller saying, "You were my agent, I don't think you gave this the level of care you should have, and I sold my house at a loss," or "I ended up paying more than I should have," that could be a claim as defined by a RISC group policy. This is the type of situation that should be submitted to RISC for coverage consideration and investigation as to whether the RISC group policy could cover and defend. If you have any question about whether your business activities are covered under a real estate E&O group policy, you are obviously encouraged to call us and discuss. However, some of the things we will ask you to consider are Do the services you're providing require a real estate license in your state? The group policy's definition of a covered professional service varies from state to state, but in most states, the act complained of, or the act involving the error or omission, must be an act which requires a real estate license. If the service you are providing does not require a real estate license, then you should investigate whether there are optional endorsements available to expand coverage or whether additional insurance is needed for your line of work. If you've received something in writing or a lawsuit or a demand for mediation or arbitration, seeking damages and alleging a negligent act, error, or omission regarding your professional real estate services, you may be holding a claim as defined by the group policy. If an insured receives something in writing that meets the definition of a claim under their group policy, the insured has a duty to submit that claim in writing to the carrier as soon as possible. Now, we've briefly explained what risk real estate E&O group policies are written to cover. The next step is to consider what is not covered, which is set forth in the exclusions section of the group policy. Every insurance policy has exclusions to coverage. Every insured should take the time to read the exclusions section of their insurance policy. Some of the common exclusions contained in the group policy have already been addressed. For example, claims alleging fraud, dishonesty, and intentional acts. However, insured should also be aware the group policy contains an owned property or personal interest exclusion. These exclusions vary from state to state in terms of what is and what is not covered. Therefore, any insured who is or intends to render professional services in connection with any property owned by the insured, their spouse, or any entity in which the insured or spouse owns or controls a financial interest must take the time to review this exclusion. If there are any questions about owned property coverage, you are encouraged to call Risk, and we will be more than happy to discuss the facts of your situation and the coverage and exclusions under the group policy for your state. In many instances, insureds rendering professional real estate services in relation to property in which they have a personal interest have found that additional separate insurance, such as a general liability, business owners, or even homeowners coverage at times, can be written to cover their needs. Further, insureds under the group policy should also be aware that the policies contain an exclusion for bodily injury and property damage. Again, bodily injury and property damage are damages which are more likely to be covered under a different insurance product. At the end of the day, our advice to insureds will always be to submit any claim or potential claim to Risk for coverage review. Risk will always closely analyze your claim and look for any coverage which may be available to you. However, if you choose not to submit a claim and months later it resurfaces, you could be facing a situation that would have been covered if timely submitted, but the failure to timely submit the claim may result in it not being covered. So the rule is, just because you think a claim isn't covered, don't fail to turn it in. Risk will be posting additional videos to address more information which we believe will be helpful. We will be addressing how a claims-made policy works, as well as some of the insured's duties under the policy, and we will also provide risk reduction tips based upon claims and situations we've encountered in our business. For additional information, we invite you to visit our website at www.risceo.com or call our office toll-free at 1-800-637-7319. Please understand this video does not address all exclusions or duties under the policy. This video is meant simply to highlight certain issues we've encountered in the course of our business. The policy form will always speak for itself, and the claims examples and coverage analysis we've touched on here do not alter the policy or coverage in any way. But this is information we hope you will find helpful. We appreciate the business of all past, present, and future insureds, and we appreciate the trust the various real estate commissions have placed in Risk in selecting our company as the state group policy provider. Thank you for your time, and we will be back in the near future with additional videos.